Welcome, welcome.
Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us. I can't see who's joining, so I'm just going to thank you for joining. Teal can see, though.
I can see who's joining. So today, Jess and I have a really exciting topic. Well, this is really exciting for us because we've both been on this journey together, meeting in a 12-step program, having a lot of friends in a 12-step program. We consider ourselves spiritual study buddies on this journey called life. So today's topic is about healing with a higher power and kind of like why that's necessary and what that's looked like in our own journeys, why we suggest it, and how you can possibly incorporate this in your own life if you don't already.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, Teal, but for me, well, I do know about you actually, but I wasn't raised with any religion at all, really. Like there were, little bedtime, like now I lay me down to sleep kind of prayer, but there wasn't really I didn't have any understanding of the Bible or religion or anything. So I grew up thinking of God as like a man in the sky who maybe existed, maybe didn't. I had no idea, and thought of him as like Santa Claus, and he'll like grant my wishes if I'm good enough, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I knew I believed in something, but out of necessity, I had to find a power greater than me, as we say in 12-step, to support me in this healing, because there was no possible way that I could do it all on my own. And it's just, I don't believe it's possible. And so whatever you believe God to be, right, for you, and a lot of people get freaked out by the word God, but anything that's greater than you, even if it's your higher version of your own self, right? Something that is greater and more powerful than your human self and your human personality that can come in and support you is really helpful, because I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's a lot of things that we really can't control.
Yeah. And another perspective that I like to add too when it comes to higher power is a higher power greater than just what you are as a human being, like you said. But it could even be like a particular process or institution or philosophy that you believe in enough that can be your higher power of sorts, where you're going to surrender yourself to that process, right? Like if you believe that the 12-step community can work, like that community or like that process can be a higher power of sorts, right? Because we know it works, we have faith in it, we trust it, because the point of us talking about this and like the real crux of healing with a higher power is learning how to surrender your healing and surrender what's happening to you to that higher power. So if it is a process, surrendering yourself to the process, maybe surrendering, do you believe in therapy? So it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to surrender my healing to therapy because I trust that it works. You believe in a divine creator. Okay, I'm going to trust that God has me and it's going to take me and help me on this journey. So it's just really about believing that you can't do it on your own, that it's not going to fully happen on your own, and that you need something else, something that's in a different position than where you are, something higher than yourself that you think can really carry you through. Because we're not meant to do this alone.
No. And Teal and I just had a little debriefing call before this, but we talked about how we can't see the whole trajectory of our entire life, right? So we have no idea what leads to what leads to what. And I was sharing this with my client today in our session. It's like, we don't know. Like the worst thing that's ever happened to you could put you directly on the path to one of the best things that's ever happened to you. And I mean, I can attest to that with our friendship, because I was like rock bottom and in 12-step and sharing, and we connected. And now like the gift of this friendship and our connection, and like you said, just someone to do this journey with who has a similar perspective and a similar level of awareness and emotional intelligence, is like a huge gift to me. And I would not have had that if my life did not blow up.
Exactly. And that's kind of why sometimes things need to happen well, always why things need to happen is we get to this point where we're almost forced into surrender, or we finally are like, I'm so sick of struggling and grappling and battling, trying to be in control. And I want to surrender to something else because I'm done fighting. I'm done fighting. And for me, you know, you talked about how you grew up and how your belief was with God. For me, I was raised very religious, very Christian. I had a strong sense of God in my life. My dad was a minister, so I was around it all the time. We prayed constantly. I went to church 3 times a week. You know, I preached about it. I was constantly talking about God and how God can help you and heal you and save you. And I had a severe loss of faith, a severe disbelief in God when I was entering the rooms of, you know, Eating Disorders Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous. And I didn't believe in God when I first came in, because when everything was happening, I was just like, how are you letting this happen? Why are you allowing all these things to happen to me, right? And so I remember my brother got sober before I did, and he told me about believing in God, and I was like, wait, what? Like, and it was so weird to me that I'm like, wait, you're using this God word, and I don't know how I feel about it. Because at the time I was like totally atheist. Like, I left my own religion. I was like, I totally don't believe in God. Like, with everything that's happened, how could this, you know, where I'm at, where is God right now? And I didn't realize at the time that it was because I was trying to still have control of everything, and I just kept mucking it up. And and that's why things are happening. God was just looking at me like, you done yet? You done yet? You ready for me to step in yet? You done? Right? And so my brother told me about his belief in God. And then I was like, well, if he can believe in it, maybe I can too. And then I kept seeing, when I would be around different people in my life that were thriving and doing well and seemed really happy and had what I wanted, that they all had this belief in like a power greater than themselves that was helping them get through it. And one of the big things that I remember people talking about originally was prayer. And I was so turned off by it. And someone said to me, they're like, listen, I don't know how it works. It just does. So why don't you just try it? And that's kind of how I ended up getting back into my belief in God. And that's what I just call God. I'm a word now. And in that belief of a higher power. And they were just like, listen, just try it, see what works. And I did. They're like, oh, just surrender. I started trying the things that people suggested to me, whether or not I believed yet, but I was willing. I was willing to try, and I was willing to be willing to believe. And the more and more I did that, the more and more I had evidence popping up in my life, right? Like relationships with you and relationships with Joe and job situations and finding other people in community that I was like, oh, maybe this God thing is like working. And it's definitely proved to me through working the steps that me trying to do it my way wasn't working. I didn't heal myself. I hurt myself continuously. And then it wasn't until I really surrendered my own will and my own story, beliefs, everything, and just kind of let God work in my life that I started to find real healing. You know, it wasn't working the other way. And so I'm not an atheist anymore. It's kind of wild. Who would have thought?
I think it's really beautiful though, because you went from like religious indoctrination where it was like imposed upon you and like in a very, you know, extreme manner to leaving it completely, which is what happens a lot of times when we need to shift something in our lives. Like we'll swing the pendulum all the way over here to atheism. Right? Now I'm an atheist. So like, fuck off with the God, anything. Right. And then it's like, oh, well, what if there's some sort of middle ground where I can still be connected to that? Like what I believe God is just this benevolent energy that's always operating, that is orchestrating things on our behalf for us, right? And I was sharing with Teal, I've been listening to this guy who channels called Bashar. It's a little out there, but it's really not, because he's speaking about these concepts. And he was saying life works automatically for us when we allow it, right? And Abraham Hicks, who's another person who channels, says the same thing. She says, like, you know, life is constantly wanting to rain down on you blessings, and we are the ones that put up the umbrella to block the blessings from coming down. And you know,
I heard something similar. Oh, sorry to interrupt you.
Okay.
No, I heard something similar with abundance, where it said abundance is the norm. We're the ones that create the blocks. So it's the same thing that you're saying with these blessings. It's like, They're everywhere. It's just we're the ones that are rejecting them in ways we don't even realize we're doing.
Yeah, because we're in fear, right? And most of us have been operating for most of our lives in survival mode, where we are in fear and we feel like we need to try to control things in order to be okay. And so it's really our brains and our evolution where we're at. Like, the consciousness is now expanding, but we're still kind of going against our survival brains that are wanting to run the show all the time and wanting to control things. And, you know, it's funny because I've heard this said by one of my closest friends, Alice. She was like, you know, I really thought for so long that my plan is better. Like, my plan is better. And I relate to that so much. Like, I'm like, no, if I don't orchestrate this in the way that I want, then it's never going to happen. So, like, I got to get on it and figure it out. And they say figuring it out is not one of the 12 steps, right?
I know, it's so good. I love that one.
Yeah. But I mean, for me, I've had a real pattern of like holding on to things and like wanting to control and not just surrendering. And so life has given me this feedback of putting me on my knees, right? Because how else would I surrender? How else? If I wasn't, you know, and some of us might just need a little whisper to follow that guidance of the divine. Some of us might need a real like wake up moment, right? And to think about the fact that life loves you so much that you will be redirected. And how loud do you need the volume to go, right? Because it's going to get turned up and turned up and turned up. And, you know, it's a daily practice. Like, I don't wake up saying like, God's in control and like, no, I wake up in often like feelings of like fear or dread or anxiety. And I go straight to meditation and prayer and really turning it over. Anything that feels like too much, too heavy, too big, things that I'm carrying, like giving it to the divine and asking for it to be lifted to divine right order.
That is so good. And what a beautiful practice. You know, there's so many things you said in there that as you were saying, I'm like, yes, yes, yes. We're hitting on so many key points. And the biggest one that I really want to point out is that this universe, the world that we're in, is a world of free will. Okay. And so up until this point in our lives, from this very moment, always, we have free will. We are able to exercise our own free will. You know, unless another human is trying to take it away, right? But the way that we were created is to have free will. And when we continue to do things and say, we're in control, we're in control, we're in control, we're exercising our free will. Mm-hmm. But it only gets us to a certain point because we can't see all of it. We can't see what people are doing. We can't hear things that are happening behind closed doors. We don't know what people are thinking, you know, right? There's a lot we can't control. So because of that, our free will only gets us so far. So when we turn our will over to a higher power and say, you know what, I recognize I don't know it all. I recognize that there's only so much in my control. I'm going to honor and respect that I can't control everything. And I'm going to turn it over because my will has only gotten me this far. And I know I can't do it all. But you just said that it's a daily practice, right? And the reason it is because the moment we take our free will back, the moment we go do what we think we should do, as opposed to what our inner guidance or intuition is telling us, like, hey, maybe take a step back. Hey, maybe don't act right now. Hey, maybe pause. You know, my friend says God is in the pause, and I love that. It's the truth. Like, when we pause and we don't just act right away on our own instinct, we just take a moment where, like, maybe meditate, pray, talk to someone else, right? We'll find our higher power, our, you know, guidance in those moments. When we don't do that and we just act out of like this instinct, out of this programming, this indoctrination, we take our will back. And then the universe, God is like, oh, sorry, you took it back. I can't intervene now. I can't do anything. I can't help orchestrate because you just told me you want it back. So that's why I love that you're talking about this daily practice, because it is a continual practice of turning over that free will, saying, hey, I need help. Hey, I can't do it. Hey, can you please help show me? Can you bring in this person that I need? Can you tell me what to do? Can you give me a sign, right? Whatever it may be that we're asking for, we have to ask for it. We have to give up our free will to it, or else there's not going to be any intervention. You know, that's why I love in 12-step programs, they talk about constantly, like, not forcing people to do things, that it's about attraction, not promotion, because we're not trying to force anyone to do anything. We're not trying to take away free will. We're trying to honor free will and show and encourage people to turn theirs over so that they can receive the help. You know, it's when we do that, when we allow, like you said, we allow life to orchestrate for us, we get in the flow, and like things flow beautifully. Way better than we could have ever imagined.
Right. And I think that's a key point, right? Like when we can surrender and allow and practice, right? And notice when we're not, notice when we're, you know, wanting to take back the control over everything, and just have compassion for that too. But when we're in that space, I mean, we're made in the image and likeness of God. So we're not separate from this energy that is supporting us. So the desires that we have in our hearts are there for a reason, and they're meant to be experienced, right? But we don't know the how. And like you said, we do have to ask and invite in the support of that energy. Because I remember, same as you, like a few years ago, I was like, well, what if there's a God, then why is this happening? And then I read that if you whatever you believe, like I believe in all the things, like angels, guides, ancestors, like everything, but you have to invite in the support. You have to allow the support, because then they are not able to intervene unless you give permission, and except when it's in like a life or death situation. So then they can sometimes intervene. But it's really interesting. So, and the other thing too is, like, if we have our ideas, and believe me, I was talking to Teal about this before we got on the call. I was like, if anyone's had to surrender timelines, it's me. Like, of how I thought, where I thought my life would be and what I thought it would look like at the age that I'm at is not at all what I've had to be. Extremely patient and still, but I've had this idea, this like tunnel vision of it needs to look like this, this, and this, right? And so if we're so hyper focused on it being a certain outcome, a certain person, a certain, amount of money, a certain job, like we have this tunnel vision like this, and we're only looking here, and we cannot see there's infinite possibilities to how things can unfold, infinite, and they can change in any moment based on the vibrational frequency that we are elevating on. Like, what radio channel are you on, right? That's why they say when it rains, it pours. Because if we're feeling like shit, we're on that channel, more things are probably going to come in that just intensify that.
Yep.
So our work is always with ourselves, right? And so what I've been doing lately, because I'm in another surrender moment, another one.
Same.
Another one. It's like new
it's like
level.
DJ Khaled.
It's like what?
Another one.
Yeah. Yeah. So here I am in another surrender moment. My birthday's coming up. Birthdays historically have been a challenging, ever since I was a little kid. Expectations were, age, like my birthday, whatever. So I'm in another surrender moment, and I'm like, okay, I'm praying. I'm like, show me, God, show me. I turn this all over to you. If I am, to be a wife to somebody, show me how you would use me. If I am to be a mother, show me how you would use me. And then I have to just turn it over, and just turn it over and turn it over and turn it over. And also believe that what's happening right in this moment is God's will. So
yeah, that's what I say to people. How do you know this was meant to happen? Because it's happening.
Right.
And meant to is like that, like whatever you want that to believe, because there's not a lot that we actually can control. Like, the more you think about control, the more you realize how very little control you actually have. Right. And the biggest thing too is that we don't heal in a vacuum. That's actually not how we heal at all, with however you want to frame healing, but we can't heal in a vacuum. We were created as relational beings. So we need relationships to occur. Not only relationships with other humans, but relationships with the higher power, relationship with the divine in the universe. We are meant to be in relationship with all the things that are around us. And so healing ultimately is all about relationship. This is why you and I are so fascinated and study what we do, relationships. Hence the name of this podcast. I can relate. Everything, right, that we talk about is relationships,
Yeah.
relationships to ourselves, our relationship to other people, our relationship to nature, food, our bodies, God, religion, all of it. This whole universe is made in relationship. So for us to even think that we can get through and heal whatever it is we're going through alone is basically denying how we were generally created.
Yeah.
You'd have to deny that we are relational beings to think that just healing happens completely on your own. It's just not the truth. Because even when you are healing and say you are alone because there's no one else around you, it's already been proven that when you have a belief in a higher power, you are like X amount of times more likely to get through whatever it is you're getting through. So whether you're looking to beat an ailment, a serious disease, like something that's life-threatening, like whatever, if you're going through a difficult time, addiction, you're battling all that kind of stuff, you're significantly more likely to recover, heal, survive when you believe in a higher power.
Yeah. 1,000%. And I was thinking about this, just these things come into my mind from lectures that I heard years ago. Marianne Williamson speaking on A Course in Miracles, and she was talking about, the vertical plane. So like direct line between us and the divine, right? If we are connected and dialed in there, then everything on the horizontal plane of life works much better, right? But we need this connection. And if we lose it, or we make something else our higher power, right? Like a romantic partner, money, a job, anything outside of us, if we give it that power, then we're in trouble, because anything external can change at any moment. So then we're building our house on sand, basically, not a strong foundation, versus building it on rock when we're like, okay, the connection I have to myself and God is forever, for all eternity.
Yes. I'm so glad you said this, because oftentimes, especially in 12 steps, you hear, actually, even it's just popular now, even on like TikTok and Instagram, right? With a lot of trauma talk and addiction talk. People say the opposite of addiction is connection. Connection to what, right? They'll say human beings. It's, get out and go connect with a human being. No. Well, sort of, I should say. Yes and no. The opposite of addiction is connection to self and God.
Yes.
The reason addictions occur, I love the way it's even visually explained, is like in Buddhism, they talk about the realm of the hungry ghost is the addiction. It's like the addiction realm, where it's like, you're just like, duh, imagine Casper the ghost. He's like eating, it's just like falling out of him. And then in AA, they call it God-sized hole.
Yeah.
That you have this hole in your body. Imagine stuffing everything into it. It just like keeps pouring out. It's this God-sized hole. Because nothing can fill it besides a connection with ourselves. And since you said we are made in God's image, basically that's a connection with God. It's the same thing. The deeper we try to connect with ourselves and the deeper we try to connect with God, it's the same thing. That's the connection that is the opposite of addiction. And if we find God in relationship with human beings, in terms of like, when I look at someone, I'm able to believe in God more, right? That's beautiful. Then you can find, that is the good type of connection that will be the opposite of addiction. But yes, when people say that comment, connection is the opposite of addiction. Really, connection to self and connection to the divine.
Right.
That's really what that means. Like God-sized hole can only be filled by God, right? Higher power, divine universe, whatever you want to say. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that's the truth. That's exactly what people need to be focusing on.
Yeah. And it is a day-to-day practice. Like, it's a day, if you don't like the word God, throw it out, right? Like, whatever you believe is greater than you, right? Like your highest self, your angels, your guides, the trees outside, like anything, whatever makes the grass grow, like, but yeah, what was I going to say? Oh yeah. The thing about what you said, the opposite of addiction is connection, right? I love that, because I think the way that we view addiction for the most part is very distorted and skewed. And like people that have issues with addiction, it's like a moral failing, and like it's just not the truth at all. And so I really want to help shine a light on that. But like what you said, I mean, connection to self and God is how we do heal. And when I was falling asleep last night, I was like, I feel held right now. I feel held by God right now.
Oh,
And like that doesn't happen very often for me. Like, that's been a journey for me. Usually I need like another human being, to be honest, to feel held. And
yeah. And that's
so
that external thing, and you had kind of talked about that, of these external things of like, we're seeking this to fill this God side hole in these outside things. And so sometimes it's seeking that in another person where then they become our higher power.
yeah.
And the fact is they're human. They have their own flaws. They can't even save themselves. They can't even heal themselves. But here we are trying to help them heal us, right? And save us.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not going to be able to do that.
No. And I put this quote actually on my vision board because I thought it was so beautiful, but it said like, our whole purpose here is to experience God through the expression of ourself and through each other, right? So it's this thing that says we're here to experience God, and the portal is each other. So,
I love that. I love that.
Me too. I love it. And what that means is like accepting people exactly as they are.
Yes. And what a beautiful, loving, compassionate thing to do.
Yeah, because it's the only way. Like, we cannot change anybody. Loving someone enough is not going to help them change. Criticizing them is for sure not going to help them change. Our ideas of how they should be is not going to do anything. Like, when are you most likely to show up as the highest version of yourself, right?
Oof. No, that's so true. It's when you're accepting them, when you're in full acceptance of what's happening. And in this moment, who they are, where they are. And I love, the reason why I love so much when you were talking about the portal as another human being is then you can view them as like they were God and you're God, right? Like it's like you both are. And you feel this oneness. You feel a connection. You no longer feel like you're separate. Because it's true, like it's this separateness. Like actually the opposite, they're the equivalent of addiction is separation. I've heard that before too, where people will say like addiction really is just separation. And it's separation from what? Ourselves, other people, God, nature, everything. It's separation from the relationship that we're supposed to be in lovingly. And so I love that you're talking about this, because when we start to show up in that way, that actually leads to a lot of healing. When you start to accept other people for who they are, in turn, we kind of even start to accept ourselves. And then there's a lot of healing in that. And vice versa. When we accept ourselves, we're able to judge less, have compassion more for other people, accept them more. It's great. Great point.
Yeah. And it's not our natural way of doing things, right? Because our ego mind comes in and our fear comes in and our past stories and our own perceptions and our traumas come in. And we see things through a distorted lens. So the more that we can do our own work, whether it be in like, with a therapist, with a coach, in a 12-step program, yoga, like all of the above, right? Like what works for you? What is your cocktail that would support you the best in your healing? And if you don't know, ask. Ask to be shown. Like for me, yoga, that was another miracle of this 12-step program. Like I never was into yoga, and now I met this woman in my program and she owns a studio, and now I'm like doing yoga 6 days a week, and it's transformed my whole life and my body and everything. And was I looking for that? No. Right. So it's really,
but that same studio, again, yet another connection of how you and I continue to intersect. That same studio showed up for me when I first moved out here. Before that owner was in another program, which I ended up seeing her at that program, right? And then we've made mutual friends within the program who even recently, when I was praying, saying, hey, God, give me a sign that I'm meant to spend more time. Actually, I want to tell this story real quick. I know we don't have too much time left, but I want to tell this story because this is exactly asking for the healing and the science and stuff, and including your higher power. I host a meeting, an EDA meeting, which is Eating Disorders Anonymous, at this yoga studio on Sundays at 8 p.m. Open to everybody. We can post about it too, by the way. And I was praying, saying, hey, God, I want to know where to put my time. Where's the best use of my time? I'm really thinking that I want to spend more time and expand this Eating Disorders Anonymous meeting because I think more people need it. But I need to save money. It's going to cost me more money to do that because I want to get us up on Zoom and whatnot. I think that's what I need to do. Let me know what you think, right? Like, give me a sign. Literally 4 days later, I get contacted by our mutual friend, Jill, who works at that studio. And she's like, hey, I was talking to the studio owner and we would love to bring you on a part of our Karma Yoga program for all of the work that you're doing with your EDA. We're so proud of you. You're like service so much with your EDA. We know you want to do, like, she didn't even know that I wanted to expand it. She just knew that I like had been doing more and like really trying with it. And she's like, so we would love to give you the Karma Yoga like membership, which is where I get to go as much as I want to the classes now. And I was the immediate confirmation, right? It was just like, and because I was struggling with the money situation of like, well, I really want to do more yoga. It's really healing. I want to be a part of this community more, but it's like going to cost more to be part of this. It's going to cost more for that. Like I'm looking at all these things, and then God was just like, it's okay. Look, like here you go. And and this yoga classes and like being around all these people you and I get to do them together now. They're so healing. Like I love everyone that goes there. I'm so grateful. And now I'm so supported on that now I have even more time and I feel more invigorated to be of service and expand my meeting. We're going on Zoom. We're going to expand it. I show up every week. Like people are excited about it. And it's just like, okay, I invited God in. I invited saying, hey, I don't know. Please show me. Right. And it turned into immediate sign. And then people are there. And because we are these, you said the portal thing. So because we are expressions of God, that's how we get used. Yes. Our higher power uses each other, and people so many times would be like, why isn't God ending suffering? Why isn't this happening? Right? Why am I healed yet? God shows up as other people, other things, right? To help us through these things. And so it's like, I'm able to be an expression and help somebody and be of service. You're able to be an expression to help somebody and be of service. So like we actually are helping each other in really, really beautiful ways. And that's our higher power expressing themselves so that we can all heal together.
1000%. And I was speaking with my client today too, because he was talking about, Instagram and how this person's life looks perfect on Instagram and whatever. Right. And I'm like, right. Yeah. And, none of us get out of this life without experiencing adversity, trauma, grief, loss, love, beauty, pain, like the whole spectrum of the human experience. And so I believe there's like almost like a higher level of a soul's journey and lessons that we're here to learn. And, I've been in that place many times where I'm like, oh my God, my human self is like, enough. Like it's too hard. My whole life has been a lot of pain and like, no, thank you. Right. But speaking of, like, no, thank you. I'm done. Like, give me a break. I need a break, and at the yoga studio, I was speaking with one of my favorite instructors and I kind of said this to her in not so many words. And she was like, yeah, but Jess, like with what you do, right? Like your purpose here and just who you are, like as a human and a friend, like how would you get the codes to support people in walking through these things if you had not been there your own self, right? Like you actually can't. Like, how could I? How could you, right? Like if you hadn't experienced struggling with an eating disorder, how could you sit with someone and be with them and support them in healing, right? So, it's not easy, but nobody's life is easy.
Exactly.
And so, how can we, instead of thinking about what we can get, right? Like what can I get from this person or what can I get from this relationship or what, like if we can focus on how can I be of service, and there's a prayer in A Course in Miracles that's like, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say and to whom?
Oh, I love that, Jess. That's so good. We'll have to include that in the notes. Or in the caption somewhere. That's really, really good.
And when you pray that, I just got shivers. Like when you pray that, like you will be guided and used as an expression of God and of love, right? And that is where we feel our true, like that God-sized hole, that hungry ghost is finally satiated.
Yep. No, you're right. It really is in being of service, because when we're stuck in self, when we're stuck in this self-centered way, it's not helpful, right? It can end up being this spiral. But when we get out of ourselves, when we connect with our higher power, we get out of ourselves and we're of service, all of a sudden, because that is what is the energy that we're made with, right? Like the essence of God is love and being of service and giving. So when we act in that way, we're connecting with our higher power because we're acting like our higher power. So you're so right when you say we connect with our higher selves. And, one thing I was thinking about during this is I realized that, there might be people that are listening that may be struggling with God or don't believe in a higher power or are wondering, like, how can we get to this place too? Is there anything you suggest? And one thing that came to my mind that I would really like to leave our viewers with is a exercise that I do with people that are struggling with it. I did it myself, and I do it with sponsees. And basically, you get a piece of paper, and you're going to split it in half. And on one side, you're going to write down all of the things that you can believe in. So write things that you can believe in that you think are God or God-like, things that when you do them make you feel connected to God or a higher power. You write all of those in one list. Then in the other list, you write all of the things that you can't believe in or that are blocking you from a belief in God. And so you write these two lists and you seek very clearly, like, your blocks. And it's so funny because in doing it, the amount of times I've done it with people, I see the same blocks over and over again. And it'd be like suffering and like all these things and, just like these bad things that have happened or whatever. And so many times what I really see is, lack of faith, resentment, and fear. Those are the three things that I see constantly on the right side of the column, like when you really break them down into feelings. And so what I have people do is say, okay, what is the opposite of those things, right? And then and then the opposite of those things is always found in the things that they can believe in. Like, it's so funny how the lists end up kind of being opposites. And so I tell people, like, okay, well, when you're feeling this way, when you're feeling like you're not connected, like, focus on these things. And when you're on these things, see if you can start to develop a higher power of like based on the things that you can believe in, and start there. And like, it's as simple as that. It's like, just start where you can believe in. And then the very last thing that you do too is you doubt your doubts. So when you're looking at that other column, all those things that are causing you to doubt a higher power, doubt them. See if you're willing to doubt them and just and question them.
Yeah.
Well, why do you think that that's true? Well, why is it that you don't think that, right? Or why is it that you think that God's the one causing suffering? What about humans? Why don't you hold humans accountable? That's what I say to people. I'm like, wait, why are you blaming God for the suffering? Why aren't you blaming the humans that are doing it? Right? Right? And so I tell people, like, focus on the things that you can believe in. And so many times what I see is getting out in nature, meditating, helping other people, doing good deeds, right? Praying if it's on there, dancing, singing, cooking. Like, these are the things that make people feel really connected. And I'm like, cool, go continue doing that. Nurture that side of it. And then it really starts to grow from there. But it always helps when you put it on paper and you can really see what's blocking you and start to question why those beliefs exist. And then you really see what's connecting you, and you just start to nurture that. Even if it's only one thing. You might have one thing in the belief column and like 20 things in the can't believe. Start with that one thing and go from there. So you can grow it and slowly get rid of those doubts that you're having.
I love that. And it's interesting because the more I've been doing this meditation every day, which is like the 11th step, prayer.
Love that. Love the 11th step. Like, what made me want to stay in the 12 steps.
Oh, yeah. And basically the more that we strengthen this muscle of connection to God, the more that we will have more and more evidence that it is a real thing, right? So when we remain open and available for God and know that we're not the directors, actually, we're not the puppeteers. We don't get to control the script, right? So can we just put that down just for today? that need to try to control and orchestrate. That's been a big one for me. And like,
same.
And really just, where would you have me go, God? What would you have me do?
Yep.
And just be open to be used. And like, when you can, because, you know, we're programmed in just the opposite manner, because we're programmed to forget our divinity.
Yeah.
Because then, you know, there's like, that's a longer thing, but like, but we are. So we want to remember like 180 degrees opposite of what we've been taught. 180 degrees opposite of the world that we live in is, so it's not what can I get, it's what can I give. And then paradoxically, you get what you give.
Yep. Nope, it's so true. People say there's more happiness in giving than there is in receiving.
Mm-hmm.
And it ends up being true more and more. And the more you give, the more you realize how little you need.
Yeah.
And then you start to get so unattached to it that
Mm-hmm.
then you receive it so much. And you're like, oh, wait, I didn't expect this. Because giving becomes a part of your true nature. And again, that's the same alignment with God. That's what higher power is. Higher power is abundance. Higher power is blessings. You know, the universe is full of abundance and blessings and giving. So when we align ourselves with that, that's really the healing that happens. That's when we allow healing to happen.
Right. And I know we have like 2 seconds left, but just a couple of things. So one of my clients today was really struggling with this, right? She's like, has an idea of how she thinks things should go, and that she has to figure out, like, am I, you know, going to rebuild with my husband, or am I going to move in another direction? And like, what's the answer? Right. And that's a hard one. Like, as humans, it's like, which way am I going to go? And, you know, how do I know? And all of these things. And it's like, it's okay to want what you want. Right. So what I said to her is like, can you put like the husband over here for now? And just get really clear on what you want to create in relationship and in partnership, and practice embodying those qualities, your own self, and aligning with that vibrational frequency, your own self. And then one of two things will happen. The relationship will shift and things will open up, and you can explore that, or it will become very, very clear because there's too much of a discrepancy, and then you will be guided in another direction, right? But it's okay to want what you want. So you can get really clear on your vision for your life and what you desire, and like write it all down and get super, super clear, but then surrender it. Mm-hmm. Like, give it to God, and okay, God, show me. Like, we can't control the timelines, the how, like the who, even the what, like we have no control over that.
Yeah. And we think we can predict or know how it's going to unfold. And it's like, it's not, because again, limited perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You and I were talking about, we're 3-dimensional beings. We can experience time, but we can't perceive it, which means we don't fully know the past. We don't fully know the present because we don't know what's happening in everyone else's lives. We don't know the future. So because of that, there's a lot we don't see and a lot we don't know. So like, we may think it's going to happen a certain way, but like, we're not oracles. We don't, we're not psychics all the time. Like, we don't always know exactly how things are going to play out. And, you know, another thing that was coming to mind when you were talking about this, Goodness, I just lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
It'll come back. That happened to me too. It'll come back.
What were you just talking about with your client? With the feeling. I remember now. Yeah. Okay, the feeling. So the one thing that's been helping me a lot recently is when I want things, I ask myself, what is the feeling I want to feel? What am I looking to feel that I think X, Y, or Z is going to help me feel? And it's like, whether it means I get money or a relationship or this certain job or this thing happens, what am I looking to feel? And when I understand the feeling that I'm trying to get from whatever's about to happen, like relationship, baby, house, money, right? Then I'm able to tap into it more and be like, oh, like I want to feel loved. Oh, I want to feel accepted. Oh, I want to feel connected. Oh, I want to feel like I'm enough. Oh, right? Like, then it makes more sense to me. And then I understand how to feel it on my own, how to feel that with other things around me, because I don't have the thing yet, right? I learn how to give it to myself. But I think so many times we don't fully, because people will even say, right, feel what it would be like to have those things. And that's, I think, where people struggle. So that's where, for me, it helped being like, what am I looking to feel? oh, what will having this thing make me feel? Oh, that's what it is. And then it's easier to tap into that when you identify it. And then, like you said, you identify the feeling and go, oh, yeah, this is nice. Okay. I know I'm going to be able to feel like this again. So I give it over. I let it go. Right? I want to feel like this again. I want to have these things. I want a husband. I want this, right? Girlfriend. So then you hand it over to God and you just trust that you're going to be able to get that. You're going to be able to feel it again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll just add one more piece in there, because you have to be in a certain state of mind to be able to even access this, right? So if you are in like a state of distress or in a trauma response or in your survival brain, good luck trying to, oh, I'm just going to focus on that, right? Like it's not going to be possible. And so there's something called state access dependence, where if we're in a state of despair, right, we're only going to access thoughts that support that feeling, right? Or in a state of depression or a state of anger or whatever. So it's like we also need to learn how to feel and process all of our emotions. And emotions have a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? And, you know, for me, like and many of us, we were taught to suppress it and push it down. And so they can get stuck if we don't allow like the beginning, the middle, and the end, right? But that's how it goes. So, you know, we don't want to rush into, like, one of my clients was like, well, I just have to get over it, right? I just got to get over it. I'm like, yeah, that would be ideal. But like, we can't just go from it bothering you every day to you getting over it.
Yeah, because then that's disconnection. That's not actually processing. You're not connecting with it. Exactly. You're bypassing disconnecting. So then you're not actually processing and feeling again. And like, that's a dissociation. Dude, I love that. I feel like that's a great topic that we should really expand upon. Yeah. So write that one down. Okay. Let's talk about that more, because I think that'd be really, really helpful. Loved everything that you had to say today, Jess. This was really great. I love how it came together, because we were both on the same page with this one, as always, of what's going on in our lives. We hope that all of you got something out of it. As always, please feel free to reach out to us and let us know if you need any support or resources and how we can help. Thank you so much for tuning in. Jess is a relationship coach. She is phenomenal. She has helped me so much. Please reach out to her. She is, like, seriously, I can't tell you how much of a difference she's made in my life. So please, please, please reach out to her, work with her. She can transform your life too. I'm a transformation coach. I help people identify their pain points, whether it be physical, emotional, spiritual, so that they can release them and they can mature and they can grow. So please reach out to me if you would like to work with me, either in person or on Zoom. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you so much, guys. And if you like this, please share it with others, because we just want to reach as many people as we can that might need support. So thank you.